Hey guys, and welcome to another day of Vlogmas. Today I wanted to talk you through some of the poetry that I've been reading recently. In the past, I've kind of stayed away from poetry and I've always just said I am not a poetry person. I'm not somebody who enjoys reading poetry. I find it difficult, confusing, whatever. But this year I've been trying to read more poetry because I realized that it's not that I'm not a poetry person, it's that maybe I wasn't reading the right poetry for me. Today I have 3 poetry collections to talk to you about, 2 that I have already completed and 1 that I am currently in the middle of, and I thought I would just give you guys some brief impressions because I still don't feel necessarily qualified to talk about poetry, and then read you 1 poem from each collection so you can kind of get a sense for whether or not there's something you might be interested in. I want to start off with the collection I'm currently reading because I have less to say about it, and that is Human Interest by Valerie Bandura. Now this one is published by Black Lawrence Press and they were kind enough to send me this for review. I just started this one yesterday, so I can't speak for the collection as a whole, but what I have read so far I've really enjoyed. She talks about things that seem very, very relevant. They seem very current. She uses pop culture references and social media references, and I really like the voice of the poems that I have at least read so far. It feels almost a bit sassy to me, and like she's just kind of a truth bringer. She's just laying it all out there and saying, hey, look, this is the ridiculous world that we live in, and I have to say I've never read poetry like that before, and I'm really enjoying it. I've actually already read you guys a poem out of this in a previous video, so I will link that in the cards in case you're interested, but today I thought I would read you Halloween Burlesque. The first guest at our costume party was Hitler, on the arm of an Auschwitz prisoner, her Twitter handle in place of a prison tattoo. Then came Kim Phuc, the napalm girl, in a wet white t-shirt on which she wrote Hot Bod. But we knew we had something when the Statue of Liberty showed up with a red deported stamp on her forehead, since she never officially made it to shore, followed by an executive order that claimed on the inside he'd known since birth he was always a bill. What's funny about satire? I asked Lenny Bruce after he'd tightened his tourniquet, and he said, how else to make sense of the senseless we can't take? Okay, Rumi, I said, is it satire if Michael Phelps swims away from shore faster than his record, but still drowns in a tsunami? It is, said Lenny, if that Indonesian tidal wave crashed Hollywood parties, so press-starved celebrities would have to host countless galas to raise enough money for the American Red Cross. As for me, I went as an American Airlines stewardess, a sliver of lip liner where the throat had been slashed, then convinced Patrick to go as a postal worker so he, like Santa showering guests with gifts, could hand out envelopes with white baking powder that sprayed from their torn seals. What surprised everyone was Cheryl, the toppled Saddam Hussein statue, who turned out to be strangely less funny than the wheelchair-bound, legless private, who wouldn't let anyone else roll him from the drinks to the hors d'oeuvres, and no matter how drunk he got, wouldn't reveal where he hid his real legs. So like I said, she's a bit funny, a bit hard-hitting, and I'm really looking forward to continuing this collection. Another poetry collection I received from Black Lawrence Press is Gates by Sahar Muradi. Now, Muradi was actually born in Afghanistan and raised in the US, so when they asked if I was interested in this collection, I immediately said yes because I figured she would have a very unique, interesting perspective on the world. After reading this, I would say that Muradi's poetry is definitely very beautiful, and what I really liked about the collection is that it really evokes this sense of nostalgia and longing for a specific place that you once knew. And she definitely does bring her background to the poetry because some of it is set in the Middle East and some is set in several different languages, and I just generally found it very beautiful. That being said, I do feel like this collection went over my head far more than the other 2 collections I'm mentioning here. I definitely think that this is something I need to sit down and reread. As soon as I finished it, I got the sense of, okay, that was really beautiful, but I don't think I got all of what she was trying to say. She does provide several notes in the back here if you want to see what inspired each poem, which I did find helpful, and in retrospect, maybe I should have read those before each poem, but I didn't notice until I had finished the collection already. So now that you know, if you decide to pick this up, definitely check the notes because they may help. To give you a sense of this collection, I thought I would read you a poem called Kabul, which is basically organized in little sections based on different places actually in Afghanistan. So apologies if I mispronounce any of these words or these places, but I'm going to do my best, and here we go. Kabul. There was once, I remember, I think it must have been there, just imagine. Bamiyan. I climbed your 2 vacuums and lost my breath, but I did not cry, seeing the women in the field balance pots on their wisdom bumps. Wardak. Malalai was taking me home. There will be apple orchards, she said, and fighting, laughed the driver, who was armed. I told him I was not scared, as we hemmed the narrow mountainside to the sound of something I could not name. Pachman. There is no explanation for it, no science or natural law. The story goes that if you take a single brick from this city, no scorpion will ever bite you. Father says we kept ours with your mother's gold. Mazar. 1. Just stepping into the square, into the standing blue pool under the pulse of 1,000 white wings, something happened. Something loosened, fell, or passed through me. A precision, a shudder, lightning, vivid as a heartbreak. 2. It's true, I had a crush on the Malang at the shrine, who marched in rags and tassels with a tail of children, calling Allahu, Allahu, Allahu. His hand never extended, but all of him untethered. 3. Better than a man. Tarashak on a hot day. Kahar. 1. We were 3 in the back in black scarves that were dusted white by the time we got there. And seeing the old hotel for the first time in 25 years, Father, whose corners are always straight, confessed a drunken boyhood. 2. Please don't tell anyone we left work early that day and drove to the lake and ate kebabs and sour cherries, and I lowered my scarf, being one with 2 beards and families peppered about, and joy still in bad taste that I tried to be small. But there was the water just like that, wide and rare and like Florida, a clear sheet of possibility, and the whisper started, the itch spread, and grew and ballooned, and before I knew it, I leapt in, with everything on and with all abandon. Panjir. 1. The difference between a poem and a lion is an alphabet. The difference between 5 poems and 5 lions is slight. 2. We walk to the hilltop that watches over the valley. We remove our shoes and continue to water his hands, now that he is under a green hat. 3. We creep past the stones marked white for mines. We kneel and spread out our picnic. An ant, a shoe, a rocket. All of it suddenly level. And the last collection I have to share with you guys today is Love and a Loaded Gun by Emily Rose Cole, and this one is published by Minerva Press. Like the others, this was sent to me for review. The poet reached out to me, and I have to say, this was the one I was most excited for because she described it as a series of persona poems from the perspective of different women in history and in pop culture. Right off the bat, I would say that if you are interested in mythology or feminism at all, you will really like this collection, and if you are intimidated by poetry, I would still recommend this to you. Emily and I emailed back and forth a couple of times, and she mentioned that her big intention with poetry is to not make poetry that goes over people's head or that requires a higher education to understand, but that she really wants poetry to be accessible to everybody, and I would say that she so totally achieved that with this collection. Honestly, this is one of the few poetry collections I have ever read where I have come away feeling that I am secure in my reading of the poems. Like, I don't feel as though I missed a whole lot. I don't feel like I was unqualified to read it, and yeah, I really enjoyed this. One thing I really liked about this collection is that although some of the poems are written from the perspectives of women in pop culture, they don't stand out from the others. They very much fit seamlessly into the collection. It almost does feel like you're reading a bunch of myths. I think sometimes when poets or other authors in general try and use too much pop culture, it just stands out like a sore thumb, and that is very much not the case in this collection. And to illustrate that, I thought I would read you guys the last poem in here, which is from the perspective of the, of course, Marvel superhero Black Widow. It's called Black Widow Explains. Love is for children. Natasha Romanoff, The Avengers. As a child, I learned that what makes me a girl makes me a threat. I copied the saw-toothed smiles of kitchen knives and juiced lemons to lighten my hair. I learned how not to bleed and when to cant my head like a kitten. Does it matter what made me? Permafrost gripped the taiga when he took me, spruce and larches, thatched in ice. Niet, niet, he wheezed as I reached for a prizik. His voice, a rumble of wheels and smoke. My heart, a drowning rat. Everything is a disguise. Black dress slit to my thigh, lips bright as the cherry stem laced on my tongue. Not a person, not to a certain kind of man, just a woman. When I say I escaped, I mean I killed him. I will not tell you how. It's not hard to be a spy. All women are made of muscle and trauma. We know how to doe our eyes and shut the fuck up so a man won't kill us. I give them just what they expect. Dumb bitch, easy bitch, dirty bitch. Let them boil me down to a curvy silhouette. They never suspect that I arrived armed with love and a loaded gun, wearing cliches like Chanel to blind them to the bullet they won't ever see coming. So that is the poetry I have been reading recently, and I would really encourage you guys to check these out if they sounded remotely interesting for you. Hopefully you don't mind that this is probably a bit of a longer video because I did read the poems, but I personally find that I can never tell if I'm going to actually enjoy a poetry collection if I haven't heard any of the poems, and I actually tend to read them out loud to myself anyways. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any poetry recommendations based on what I have shared here, I would greatly appreciate them, but otherwise that is all I have for today's video, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you are having a fantastic day, and I will see you next time. Bye!